Hello everyone, it's Small Timber Turtle here, though I might dress up a little bit more fancier this time, seeing as I am going to be reading a few of my short stories that I'd written back in school. So, surprisingly, I couldn't find many of them. 8 of them. Had to count them all up, but yeah, 8 stories. Pretty sure I might have written more, but yeah, I've probably thrown out with most of my schoolwork, as you do, because why would you keep it? But anyway, thought I might read them out before I actually throw out the rest of them. So, anyway, the first one, I put them in order of at least dates wise, because I've written a date on a few of these. I don't know if you can see this one. Might be a little bit see-through. Yeah, there we go. 2003 this one was written in, so I would have been 9. I would have been 9 years old when I wrote this, so don't expect anything spectacular. It's a really short one. It's only front and back of the page, so it starts off. One day, a tourist wanted to dig for gold, so she hopped onto a boat and sailed off. After hours of sailing, she came to a hill. Then she got her shovel out of her boat and started to dig. And after hours of digging, she hit something hard with her shovel. Then she dug around the thing and she pulled the thing out of the ground. It was a gold nugget. God, this must have been a pretty big gold nugget if she had to dig around the thing. When she picked it up, and again, if this was a reasonably sized gold nugget, gold is pretty fucking heavy. Especially if it's like decently sized chunk. When she picked it up, she noticed she was stuck in the hole that she dug. She was stuck in the hole for a long time. Then she saw a long rope, tied the gold nugget to the end of the rope, and she climbed up the rope. When she got to the top of the hill, she pulled the rope up, and she got a gold nugget. Again, this woman must have been really fucking strong to have done that. She did not know whose rope it was, so she put the rope in the boat with the shovel, and she went home and was very happy with the gold nugget. The end. That was it. And you can see, I drew a little picture. Sort of see it? There. Here you can see the size of the gold nugget next to her, yeah, which is pretty decently sized. Must have been really rich after that. Okay, this next one was written the next year in 2004. Yep, you can see right there, 2004. But yeah, this was my first draft of it, and I actually have a typed up version that I ended up typing up. So I'll be writing a typed up one because that would be a bit more easier to read than my horrific writing. But I don't know if you saw it, but you can see that first. Yeah, this was my first fanfic writing that I did for school, for an assignment. Yeah, back in 2004, I was very much obsessed with Doctor Who. And yeah, this was actually based on an episode that I just watched, which was one of the third Doctor Who episodes. Can't remember the name of it. I'll probably put it up on the screen somewhere here. I'll probably end up finding it, but yeah. I sort of based it on the episode that I'd recently watched. So, yeah, this was my first fanfic before I knew fanfic existed. Man, if I had known fanfic existed back when I was a kid, oh my god, I would have eaten that shit up. But yeah, one fine sunny day in London, Doctor Who was just finishing his little experiment when he heard a knock on the door. "Come in," said the doctor, and in came the Brigadier, leader, one of the soldiers, and a new girl. "I want you to meet your new assistant, Joe," said the Brigadier. "Hello, pleased to meet you," said Joe to the doctor. "Pleased to meet you too," said the doctor to Joe. Then the Brigadier and the soldier went out except for Joe. Meanwhile, the scientists were working on something. And something went wrong in the room next to the room the scientists were in. One of the scientists went into the room and found some green stuff coming out of the machine. So he touched the green stuff and then he started turning into a monster. And the doctor, Joe, and the Brigadier came in. What's going on? Yelled the brigadier over the noise. I don't know, yelled one of the scientists over the noise. The noise stopped. One of the scientists heard a noise coming from the other room. So she opened the door and out came the green monster. Stand back, said the doctor. I'll take care of him. So the doctor got a fire extinguisher, which I very horrendously spelled wrong, aimed at the monster and fired it at the monster. And the doctor killed the monster. All in one sentence. Probably should have used a lot more full stops there. Doctor soon found out the monster was one of the scientists. How did you change into the monster? said the doctor. So the doctor went into the room where the monster came out and saw the green stuff. But he didn't touch the green stuff because he knew he would change into the monster. Can you get me that strange looking bottle over on the desk? The doctor said to one of the scientists. Yeah, that's page 1 done. Okay, doctor, said the scientist. So he got the strange looking bottle on the desk and gave it to the doctor. Thank you, doctor, said the doctor, and then he put the green stuff into the strange looking bottle. What is this stuff? Said one of the scientists to the doctor. I don't know, said the doctor to the scientist. I'll put it away, said the scientist to the doctor. So the scientist went to put the cloth over the strange looking bottle with the green stuff in. That burnt his hand. His hand was changing into the same monster's hand. So he knew he was changing into the same monster. Meanwhile, the doctor was in the shed and he just finished fixing the TARDIS, which must have been an autocorrect because it says trade instead. I mean, that would be... yeah, the TARDIS sounds a lot more better. So the doctor went travelling forward a couple of years. Joe, said the doctor to Joe, looking different. Who are you? Said Joe to the doctor. It's me, the doctor, said Doctor Who to Joe. Guards, called Joe to the guards. Who's person to the leader, brigadier? God, man, that is definitely a typo and a half. Instead I call him reader. Luckily, the doctor escaped and went to the room where the scientists were and went to the machine and stopped it. He went back to the TARDIS, again autocorrected traits. He trod back to normal, and there were no more monsters and everything was back to normal. What a rushed ending. Yeah, as you can tell, back in my younger years, I was not a great writer. I mean, I sort of still not a great writer, but a lot better than whatever this shit was. Okay, so the next story was written in, hard to see with this, 2005, so this was another year skipped, so I would have been 10 when I wrote this one. But yeah, I have multiple pages, you can really see, but yes, it's sort of faded, but I also do have updated version of it that I found, that I rewrote for whatever reason, so if you guys would be interested in me maybe posting this updated one, I will maybe post it somewhere, but I wanted to read the original version because I'm sure that was going to be a lot more entertaining than my updated version. So yeah, this one's called The Headless Ghost. I think I already mentioned that. Okay, hi, my name is Richard. I'm here to tell you how I met Harry, the Headless Ghost. It started like this. It was a fine day at school, and it was already lunchtime. Everyone was happily enjoying themselves playing on the playground. Under the shady tree was the Smartsy Club. David, Remy, and Cade were the ones who started the club. If you wanted to join their club, you would have to do a dare first. The dare is going into the most haunted house in town, and at midnight, and staying there for an hour. I started walking towards them to ask if I could get into their club when the bell rang. After school, I walked over to them and said, "Excuse me, Could I join your club? You can join our club, but first you need to do the dare, said David. Meet us at the haunted house tonight, at midnight. When it was midnight, I grabbed my torch and started walking to the haunted house. 15 minutes late, Richard said. Oh, there. You're 15 minutes late, Richard, said David, when I arrived. Sorry, I said. Began to walk towards the haunted house. At the door, I knocked and it opened automatically. Inside the house were hundreds of human bones. Wonder what happened to these people, I thought. Started to get a chill down my back. Wanted to go back, but it was too late. Doors had slammed shut. I heard some creaking sounds to add effect. I noticed I wasn't alone. I tried to run, but my legs wouldn't budge. Suddenly it went black. I couldn't see anything. After about 15 minutes, the lights came back on. Decided to... yeah, Ghost must have gotten bored after that. Decided to have a look around. Again with the creaky noises. I looked around and I saw nothing. I walked up the old stairs and stopped in front of a door. Surprised the stairs are still intact if it's probably been abandoned for a while, but don't want to question my own writing. I stepped inside. It was very dark. I searched the wall for a light switch. I felt something cold brush against my legs. Also, surprised this place still has electricity again. Abandoned house. Finally found a light switch. The whole room was crawling with rats. Ew. And something slams. I looked at the door and it was closed. I walked over to the door and started tugging it, but it wouldn't budge. Let me out, I screamed. No one listened. I screamed and screamed, but it was no use. No one could hear me. I started to cry. There was no way of getting out. Suddenly, a ghost popped out of nowhere. I couldn't believe I was face to face with a ghost. With a real ghost. Don't be scared. Anyone want to be a friend, said the ghost. Don't worry, I'm not scared of you, I said. That's good, said the ghost. My name is Harry. What's your name? My name is Richard, I said. Pleased to meet you, Richard, said Harry. Pleased to meet you too, Harry, I said, shaking his hand. But my hand went straight through his. Do you know a way out of here? I asked. Yes, I do, said Harry. All I need to do is get the keys for the door. But how are you going to get the keys? I asked. I can go through the walls. Silly, said Harry. Then he disappeared through the wall. Hope he comes back soon because I don't like the looks of these rats. Yeah, they're probably really hungry after being there for a while. Also realized, what if the ghosts have been paying the electricity bill? Because that would explain why there's still electricity there. Yeah, half an hour later, Harry came back with the keys. Come on, Harry, open the door, I said. Hang on, I just need to find the key, said Harry. Ha, here it is. Must be a ghost key, otherwise there's a very powerful ghost that can pick up objects. Also, well, I mean, depending if he was on the other side of the door or not, because otherwise, if it was an actual real object, it would get through the wall. Don't know why I'm questioning this, it's just a story, but... Harry opened the door and I came rushing out the door. Thank you, I said, hugging Harry, but I went straight through him and stumbled down the stairs. Bye, Harry, I'll see you soon, I said, and I walked out the door. You stayed in there for over an hour, said David. Am I in your club or not? I said. Yes, you are, said Kate. that day on, I was visited Harry. Yeah. Yeah, again, like, my story writing is not that great, because, again, like, I think, I was 10 in this, so, yeah. Could definitely do with some improvements, which I think I did in my updated version, but we'll see if I upload that. See if you guys are judgment. Okay, so we're jumping a few years ahead this time, so we're jumping forward to 2008. Focus. You can sort of see there, 2008. So, how old would I have been? I would have been 14 when writing this, so this one, if I remember correctly, was actually one of my better stories. It is named Katie's Summer Holiday, and actually did a front cover for this. Yeah, I remember being really proud of this one. So we'll see how much my writing had improved from being 10 to 14. Okay, there was no going back now. Katie, holding her Scottish Terrier Billy tightly, looked around, terrified at the scene around her. Tall trees blocked the sun, casting everything below them into darkness. Katie didn't know how she had got there, or even where she was. All she knew was that she wasn't dreaming. That morning, Katie had been taken to her strange Uncle Albert for the summer. He was called strange because he had been cooped up inside his basement for most of his life, doing experiments and other things alike. To Katie, going to her uncle's house was pure punishment. She never wanted to go in the first place. The only reason was that there was a story about him that let me retry that sentence. The only reason was that there was a story about him that anyone or anything that went into his house never came out. Mother turned the car into Albert's driveway. His house reminded Katie of the Adams family, or the Adams family house. She wondered if Uncle Albert was related to them. Well, sweetie, I'll see you at the end of summer then. But why can't I go to a friend's house while you do your job? Whined Katie. Because their parents are going to be busy this summer, and Uncle Albert was the only one who would babysit you for the whole summer. Katie, knowing that she wouldn't win, got out of the car and slowly started to walk towards the house. Once at the door, Katie raised her fist to knock on the door. Suddenly the door opened all by itself. Katie, pushing away one of the door locks, walked inside, not surprised about what she had just seen. The house, of course, looked as though it had been cleaned in years. There were large boxes that were lying around everywhere, which still hadn't been unpacked. A piece of paper that was lying on the ground caught Katie's attention. Katie, putting down Billy, picked it up and blew the dust off. The paper was no larger than the size of a palm. Turned the paper over to see very untidy writing. But a very tidy on this typed up sheet. To my dearest granddaughter. Oh, because I realized that there was a question mark on top of it. I'm like, why is that? Because it's her uncle, so it'd be niece instead. So it should go to my dearest niece, Katie. My deepest apologies for not coming up to see you at the moment. I'm working on a very important experiment. Bedroom is set up in the attic. You'll find everything you need in the house. There is a map in your room of the house. Must be a pretty large fucking house. If you need a map of all things. Hopefully I'll see you once I am done with my experiment. From your loving Uncle Albert. Katie snorted. Some loving uncle he is if he can't even come and say hello to me, thought Katie. She walked up the stairs to the second floor and found her way to the attic. The attic was like every other room in the house, filled thick with dust and cobwebs. The only difference about this room was that it was very large. It was like two rooms put into one. Arched window with a beautiful stained glass was at the end of the room. Bed pushed into the right of the room, and a desk with a lamp and a map on top of it was on the other side. Kate's entire luggage was piled up in the middle of the room. Suddenly, Kate heard Billy barking a few doors down from her room. She didn't realize she'd forgotten to pick up Billy on her way to her room. She ran straight to the room Billy was in. Luckily, he was alright. The room she was in was small, light yellow rooms and completely empty. There wasn't even a window in this room. Seeing Katie, Billy ran over to her. "What's wrong, boy?" He then dug his teeth into the bottom of her jeans and started pulling. I was about to say, God, who's not latching onto her leg, otherwise it'd be a very different story. She eagerly followed him to the back of the room. Billy then let go and started to growl and bark at the wall. "Billy, stop barking, there's nothing there." At that, Katie picked Billy up and walked out of the room, making sure she closed the door behind her. Next day, Katie went to check out the empty room. At the back wall, she carefully started to feel around, hoping to find some kind of secret passage. She had checked about half the wall when there was a bark one behind her. Katie looked around to find Billy was there, with his leash in front of him, and with his very cute puppy eyes. Thinking that she needed some fresh air, she put the leash on Billy. Psst. Katie looked around the room, puzzled to find that there was no one there. She dismissed it as the wind and started to walk towards the door, with Billy on his leash. Then she heard it again, this time hearing it come from behind her. She looked at the wall behind her and wondered. Katie picked up Billy and then walked towards the wall. At the wall, holding Billy with one arm, she put her hand to the wall. With that, there was a bright flash. She found herself in a deep, dark forest. Her aqua eyes wide open, Katie put Billy down and held the leash. Katie then walked nervously through the forest. Everywhere she looked, there seemed to be some kind of movement. She must have only been walking 30 paces when the ground suddenly collapsed onto her feet. Katie had just fallen into a trap. Fortunately, Katie had just sprained her ankle due to the fall, but Billy was luckily okay. "Help! Help!" Katie called, but no one came. She called for help for a further 30 minutes, but without any success. Feeling exhausted, Katie attempted to curl up into a ball and fell asleep. Surprised she was able to, because I would not be able to sleep on the dirty ground with a sprained ankle, because I've had my ankle sprained a couple of times and it fucking hurts. Even laying down hurts. And the next morning, Katie awoke to find herself on a four-poster bed and her foot tended to. Billy, who had been cleaned, was lying down at the end of the bed, sleeping. The room was large like her room back at Uncle Albert's, but apart from the size, everything else looked different. The bed was at one end of the room, and the rug on the bed was made of the finest cloth, which was the color of the ocean. There were various pictures hanging on the wall, but the picture that Katie loved was the picture at the end of the room, various horses in a field. A fantastic wardrobe was on the right of the room, with a magnificent dressing table on the other side. Suddenly the door to the right of the bed swung open. In came a girl that looked like she was about the same age as Katie. She wore a beautiful lime green silk dress. Her hair was a flaming red, and was neatly brushed and plaited with blue ribbons. To Katie, she was the most beautiful girl she had ever seen. "Oh, I'm so glad you're awake. If you didn't wake soon, I surely would have thought that you were dead." Katie just opened her mouth to speak, but the girl held her hand up to stop her. "For now, you must rest, and you can ask questions later." At that, she left the room. For a few minutes, Katie looked around the room admiringly until she finally fell asleep. Katie woke a few hours later to the sense that there was a loud noise in the room. She leaned over to find Billy happily munching away on some dog food. Looking around the room once again, Katie noticed a tray of food on the dressing table. Noticing how hungry she was, she got out of bed. noticing that her foot had mysteriously healed, walked over to a dressing table. Angrily, she ate the food, not noticing the girl walk into the room. "Well, I'm glad to see you're feeling well," she said once Katie had finished eating. "You may also ask me questions now. Well, one thing, I would like to know what your name is." "It's Mary de Curting." There's a weird name that I came up with. Don't know why I came up with it, but it's a fantasy book, or fantasy short story, so it's always got to have weird names. She said simply. "I would also like to know what year it is and where I am." "It's the year 1964, and you are in Paris." Then there was silence. "Is that all you wanted to know?" "Yes, that's all for them." At that, Mary left the room. Katie felt suspicious of Mary. No one would be glad to answer questions from strangers. Most people would be reluctant. Also, Mary didn't seem to have a French accent, so Katie walked over to the door quietly and opened it a crack. Making sure that no one was coming, she grabbed Billy's leash and walked him out of the room. It seemed to be a very long corridor with walls made of stone. There were pictures and suits of armor every few meters. Katie must have been walking for at least 10 minutes before she came across a winding staircase that obviously led to some kind of bedchamber. 23 minutes later, and Katie came across a large wooden door. Putting her ear to the door, she tried to hear if anyone was in the room, but didn't hear anything. Opening the door, she poked her head in just to make sure. After that, she walked into the room to get a better look. It was a bedroom, but a very small one. The bedroom was a cylinder shape. It would have only held up to about 10 people in it. The middle of the room was 4 poster beds with a dark blue curtain, which was now drawn back. There was an arched window to the right of the room, and at the foot of the bed was a gigantic book of spells, which was now closed on a very old-looking stand. This was when Katie finally realized that she was in a wizard's castle. Surprised she was able to make note of that, but unless the book had a big title saying spells, probably should have written about that, but oh well. As soon as she realized that there was a puff of green smoke, and there stood the wizard. Looked similar to most fairy tale wizards. On his head he wore a black pointy hat. The clothes he wore were black, and his cape was a dark green. He also had a grey beard that mostly all wizards had. I'm Devil. What a fucking name. How did I come up with that? Why did I come up with that? It's just pretty much devil with an extra E. "The ruler of this world, and you, my pretty little child, are now doomed," he said in a booming voice. "Why? What have I done?" Katie said in a terrified voice. "You dared to trespass on my land, and into my room with no business. Now you must pay the price, and that is death." Well, that got very morbid very quickly. But before he could do anything, an eagle came soaring through the window and started to attack Devil. Katie, who had been up against the door, got a voice in her head that said, "Quick, you must try and get over to the spellbook and try to find a spell that can destroy Devil." Without asking any questions, she got over to the book and started quickly flipping through the pages. Once finding it, she quickly read it out. As soon as she had finished saying it, there was a bright flash, and Devil was gone. The eagle soared back through the window, and then there was another bright flash. Katie found herself back in the bedroom at Uncle Albert's. Turned around to find Billy sleeping on the bed, and a shaggy old man standing in the doorway. Clothes were torn and burnt. His feet were shoeless and very swollen. His hair was unbrushed and his beard uncut, so that it went all the way down to his knees. His skin was brown and some sort of swollen due to exposure to chemicals and not being cleaned. There was also a lot of cuts, burns, and bruises. God, I didn't... Yeah, that's very unfortunate for that man. "Uncle Albert, is that you?" Kay asked in a puzzled voice. The man struggled to nod. "But why are you out of the basement?" "I've finished my experiment now," Albert said in a very queasy and very hard to hear voice. What, may I ask, experiment was that exactly? You should know. You were part of it. You mean that me going to the other world was the experiment? Uncle Albert still got another nod. I think that's enough questions for now because you only have an hour to pack your things and go home. That Uncle Albert limped away from the room and left Katie with a puzzled look on her face. And the theme at the bottom says, yeah, I don't know if you can read it. I'll just put it on the screen there, but don't judge people by what other people say. Yeah, that was that one. Okay, definitely written a lot more better than before. Like, way more better, but definitely could have used some improvements, that's for sure. Okay, the next one is also from 2008, so... Oh, that one is a bit bright. Yeah, there we go, 2008. So... yeah, so this one should be nearly on the same level as that last story, but this one is a little bit different than before, because I'll show you the title of this. Eruption of Mount... whatever that is. Yeah, that's the volcano that erupted in Pompeii. That's what I was thinking of. Pompeii. Yeah. So basically, for this assignment, we had to research about a historic event and then write a story about that event taking place. And yeah, pretty much from the point of view of someone who was at that event. So I decided to do the Pompeii one. Or yeah, the eruption of the volcano at Pompeii. Mainly because I think at the time, around the time that I wrote this, the Pompeii episode of Doctor Who aired. So again, it's sort of based on Doctor Who, but not really. It's more or less based on the actual event. It's a Doctor Who episode. But yeah, that's sort of why I chose Pompeii. So, it was shaking on the ground that woke me up that morning. I jumped out of bed and just managed to save the vase in my room. The vase was very special to me because it had been especially made for me by my mother. After the shaking had stopped, I went to the kitchen, sighing as I went. Tremors were really starting to get on my nerves. It had been going on for the past week. As I entered the kitchen, the familiar smell of my mother's cooking filled my nose. "See that you finally managed to save all the eggs this time," I joked. I always told her to shake when she managed to save all the eggs because when it was tremor, she would always drop at least one egg. Just as well too, these are the last of the eggs. "Chickens aren't laying?" I groaned. "Fortunately, they aren't, so we have to go to the market to get some more for breakfast tomorrow." "I'll come with you," Uncle Pliny the Elder said. I had business to do in the market anyway, so in the afternoon we went to the market. Despite the tremors, everyone was getting on with their own business. I just paid for the eggs when my mother tapped me on the shoulder. I turned around and saw that she was pointing in the direction of the mountains. Then I saw smoke rising from the mountains, but couldn't make out which one. My uncle had also noticed the smoke. Both me and my uncle believed that the smoke was from the fire beyond the mountains, but at taking more notice of it, it became more clear that it was coming from one of the mountains and not a fire. So my uncle ordered for a boat to take him over closer to the mountains. He told me and my mother to go to the don't know what that is, and wait for them there. But before my uncle could board a boat, a messenger came with a message for him. "What did it say, Uncle?" "There's a woman who lives near the mountain. She is trapped inside her house and has asked me to help her. So, are you going to help her or not?" "Of course I'm going to help her, nephew." Then before another word could come out, before another word could be said, he boarded the boat and left. I left for the museum once we had watched the boat disappear into the distance. It was not until we were far away from Pompeii when we heard a loud explosion come behind us. It had come from the direction of the mountains. A giant cloud of ash had now replaced the smoke that we seen in the markets. Could just describe the cloud like a pine tree because it rose up like a trunk and then divided into branches. Now that we are facing the mountain, noticed that there was a breeze, and this breeze was changing the direction of the cloud to come towards us. The cloud was coming fast towards us, so we started to flee away from it. Thought that we would never make it, and the cloud would choke us to death. But as I thought that, the museum came into sight. Once we saw it, we ran as fast as we could. Made it to the museum, I took the chance to look back. I was relieved in sand at the sight I saw. Relieved because the cloud hadn't made it to us. Saddened because Pompeii was now buried in the ash in the cloud. But I got into the museum. The first thing I noticed was another family who had chosen this as their hiding spot. I went over to my mother and told her about the sight I saw. That I was going to go in search of my uncle in the morning. During the long night, there were many tremors. When daylight finally came, I noticed that the sun was high in the sky, and it shone palely as if it were an eclipse. It took me the rest of the day to reach the river. That night, I decided to sleep under a tree a tree that was near the river. During the night, I dreamt about the destruction of Pompeii, but when I woke up, I only remember blurred images of it. After that frightening experience, I walked on the bank, noticing that it was only the early hours of the morning. I didn't walk far when I found an abandoned boat. I noticed that there was also a foul smell in the air. Yeah, different things. As I got closer to the boat, the foul stench got stronger. When I looked inside the boat, I found the stench unbearable and a very disturbing sight. I saw the bodies of the crew and they had been badly burnt from the hot ashes. I couldn't stand looking at them anymore, so I continued to walk up the bank and away from the horrid bodies. Along the way, I saw a few more boats, but I didn't have the courage to look inside them. Finally came to the mountains in the middle of the day. I found my uncle's boat not far away, and I smelt the familiar foul stench. As I came closer, I saw that some of the bodies were outside the boat. I started to panic, thinking that my uncle may be among the bodies, but I was relieved when I didn't find his. But looking around when I noticed there was a path, and I gathered that my uncle may have gone that way. I didn't have to go far when I found my uncle's body. It was unharmed, so I thought he must have been choked on toxic fumes. Before I got left to go back to the museum, I turned my uncle's body over and closed his eyes. It took me the rest of the day to reach the museum. I found it very difficult to tell my mother the sad news, but I managed to tell her. For the next few days, the ash kept coming down from the skies and started to bury Pompeii. I believe that Pompeii and its people will be forgotten. If anything like this happens again, we'll be ready. And that was that one. Okay. Probably not the greatest story, mainly because probably could have used some better language for it, especially being for that time period, but yeah, it was still decent. Yeah, I was gonna read these other stories that I had here, but I had a quick glance over them. I realized that they're drafts of stories I've already written and posted online, so I don't know why they got mixed up in my stories from school, so I'm not gonna bother reading these, but anyway, hope you guys enjoyed my little storytelling there with some of my stories. Yeah, it was definitely a vast improvement from the first story to at least the later ones when I was a teenager, as you can probably tell. And also my handwriting, at least for the drafts. Much more easier when you can type it up on the computer. A lot more readable. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. If I come across anything more from my school times, I might make another video on this, but in the meantime, I'll see you in the next video.